fresh on the scene. Back out 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 fresh on the scene.
Back out fresh on the scene.
Back out fresh on the scene.
Hello and welcome to the ultimate best martial arts for self-defense tier ranking video on YouTube today. I'm not going to waste any of y'all's time. Let's get started. Number one, let's go ahead and come out hot and heavy with Aikido. Now, there's a lot of people that naysayers about Aikido. They say that there are no UFC champions or MMA champions touting Aikido as responsible for their martial arts prowess. You don't really hear of a lot of people recommending that for actual combat. But I'm gonna flip the switch here a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of educate you all, because it seems that people don't really understand Aikido because they've never actually faced an Aikido master. And if they did, they might understand the principles that you're taking the bad guy's energy and you're redirecting it against them. And that's very pro-good. You're not trying to hurt the bad guy. You're just trying to use his evil and badness against him. And we all know from experience that good always defeats evil. So if you just be as pro-good as possible and try to disarm your opponent without hurting him and redirect his energy against him, pretty much cosmically, universally, that's going to work. So it might be a surprise to you, but I'm going to put Aikido at S tier. Even though a lot of people put it in the D or C minus or F tier because they don't really understand it, I'm going to put it at S tier. Okay, I'm going to come out the gate with Aikido at S tier. Okay, moving on. If you disagree with that, feel free to go down in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong. So next on the list, I'm going to go with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, I'm actually purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know a thing or two about it. I put in a lot of time on the mat. I've been at it 5 years, training pretty consistently. And I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, I really am. I mean, first you have the fact that they don't deal with striking at all. It's just kind of hugging and rolling around and butt scooting so you can try to heel hook somebody or something like that. And a lot of MMA champions are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu specialists, and it has a long history. It actually initiated the first UFC was the Gracies started that, which is why it's so painful for me to have to do this. But I'm going to have to put Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at a C minus. And the reason for this is that they don't deal with striking, number one, and number two, they're just a little bit mean. Like if you go to a class or if you go roll, you're at the point where you're rolling competitively, like they're really trying to hurt each other. Like, they're trying to armbar each other and, get a rear naked choke and squeezing on people's throats and stuff. And I just don't think that that's the best way to go about winning a fight. I mean, why do that when you could just, use Aikido and redirect the opponent's energy against them? That way you diffuse the situation and no one gets hurt. It just seems like a better scenario to me. So BJJ, it's locked in as C minus. I could see it going up or down a little bit, but that approximately there. Okay. Now we're going to go with Capoeira. Let's spice it up a little bit. So Capoeira is a Brazilian dance fighting thing, and it was made sort of famous by the movie Only the Strong. from the 90s where typical plot line where the hero cop goes undercover in the school and starts teaching the inner city kids Capoeira, and they have this beautiful transformation. And, it's mystical and cultural and all that. So I'm going to give it an A-. Just because it's fancy, it's pretty, it's cultural, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to work against a bad guy, like for sure. Next on the list, we've got wrestling. So I'm using the word wrestling to include like all the collegiate style wrestling, folk style, basically what you think of when you think of high school wrestling, okay? And yes, it's true. Most of the UFC champions in the last 5 years or so have had a wrestling base. And so that's made people think that it's like a really good thing to train to be able to win a fight. But they'd be foolish to think so. Because wrestling isn't even a martial art. It's just a sport. So there's really no way that you could win at a martial arts competition if you're playing a sport. I mean, yeah, they've got great takedowns and they can control and have an intuitive understanding of how to grapple far greater than the average person does, but that doesn't change the fact that they're just playing a sport and they're dumb jocks and they really don't understand what martial arts is all about. At least not one like Aikido or Capoeira that's cultural and, super nice. So I'm going to give wrestling gets a D. And I stand by that. So boxing, I'm going to put with wrestling in the D tier. Because it's not very good. All right. Let's go with Ninjitsu. Okay. I've never been to a Ninjitsu school. There aren't any in my area. I've looked online and watched Ninjitsu people that claim to practice Ninjitsu. And I know that I like ninjas. I know that ninjas can do like superhuman agility, speed, and like almost have an almost magical ability to strike without being hurt, to be invisible, to move in the shadows like Batman type stuff. That's what, everyone knows what ninja means. And ninjitsu has the word ninja in it. That's what they're talking about. So I know that if they're training ninjitsu, that means that these people are training to be ninjas, which means that the ones that are good enough actually are ninjas. So I'm going to give ninjitsu an A because ninjas are bad. They're bad dudes. Everybody knows ninjas are bad. So ninjitsu, A. All right. Moving on down the list. Kickboxing. Kickboxing's like, a lot of professional fighters have a kickboxing base, and pretty much all MMA fighters train some form of kickboxing because it's kind of the pinnacle of striking, right? You're punching, you're kicking, you got knees, elbows. You have to be able to move your head and your feet intelligently to avoid damage. Just sounds kind of vanilla to me, so I'm going to give kickboxing a C. Kind of boring. And so since we're on to that, we might as well go Muay Thai too, since it's basically the same thing, right? I mean, Muay Thai is kickboxing. They're just, in a warmer climate, a more warm and humid climate, and they're doing more elbows and knees and a little more clinch, but equally meh. Just kind of, Like, right? Like, what are you even doing? It's not really that mystical, right? You're chopping banana trees down with your legs. Like, it just sounds kind of brutish. Probably not going to win a fight against a more artistic or more mystical level opponent, right? So I'm going to put Muay Thai at D because I don't like people being mean to each other. And Muay Thai guys, they like, they pressure test. They're like fighting, like really hard, kicking each other's legs and stuff. It's like, guys, we don't need all that violence. Like, to win a fight, you don't need all that violence. All right, so let's move on to karate, whatever, however you pronounce it. That's actually my base. I started taking karate when I was 6 or 7 and did it for like 7 years. Fell off of it after that, but I retained a lot of those lessons and a lot of those morals. And even today when I'm training boxing or other striking sports, that karate base is always kind of there. It shows itself. And I really love karate because it's one of the pro good ones. Like, it's one that you would take your kids to, and you can kind of go to a karate gym and not be pressure tested and not really ever have to like become good at fighting. You can just kind of like jump through the hoops and do all the kata and do the point sparring and stuff. And never really develop as a real martial artist, but still get your black belt. So I'm going to put karate because it's kind of got this pro good mystical Aikido and Capoeira aspect to it, but it's more, it does have some meanness to it. Like when some of the techniques are a little bit mean, so I'm gonna give karate an A minus. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's see, what else do we have? Wing Chun. Okay, so Wing Chun, kind of in the same vein as Ninjitsu. It's Wing Chun is Chinese. It's a style of kung fu where they use a lot of circular movement, and they use those Wing Chun dummies, those wooden things that and they do things that look pretty. And that means it's legit, right? So Wing Chun, I'm gonna say is an A. Even though there's basically no Wing Chun fighters, very few Wing Chun influenced fighters in MMA at all. But I think the reason for that is that they're just too good as martial artists and as people to compete at a British sport like MMA. And that's why you don't see them there. That's also why you don't see any of the Aikido people or Ninjitsu people excelling at MMA either, is because you really don't see these mystical, great, transcendental martial artists coming to get into a cage and play a sport with a bunch of jocks. That's not what real martial artists do. Real martial artists, are like perfecting their chi, and they're like, they're working on their chi fireballs, and they're, working on themselves as a person because they know that that's going to help them win a fight somehow. And that's why you don't see any of those people in MMA fights or winning MMA fights. So what else do we have? Jeet Kun Do. This is the martial art developed by Bruce Lee, and we all know from what we've learned from Ninjitsu, where Hollywood invents a certain mysticism around a martial art. They, like ninjas being these kind of mystical things, pretty much totally invented by Hollywood. And Jeet Kun Do is Bruce Lee, who was a Hollywood phenomenon. So it's legit because you can see on camera how fast he is, right? I mean, he fought Chuck Norris. Go watch the movies. Right? Go watch the movies, right? So Jeet Kun Do, I'm putting it with Capoeira and Karate at A-. Jeet. All right, there's only one left on this list, and that is Tai Chi. Tai Chi, ladies and gentlemen. And not very many people that do these lists put Tai Chi anywhere above, these tiers. They're pretty much all kind of poo-pooing on Tai Chi. And that's because they don't really understand it. If you're a BJJ practitioner, for example, and I'm a Tai Chi master, and you come butt scooting towards me trying to ankle lock me, I got news for you, pal. You're not going to get very far when I hit you with that Tai Chi fireball. When I use telekinesis to knock you back further on your ass than you already were, it's not going to work. Let me just tell you. So, without further ado, Tai Chi, along with Aikido, gets S tier. S tier. Forever more Sanchionados. S tier. Tai Chi, Aikido. And, there's one more. There's one more that I forgot to address. And that is the martial art of MMA. So MMA started out as different martial arts practitioners, trying different martial arts against each other in a pressure-tested cage fight scenario. And it's really evolved. Now we're in 2023, and MMA has become its own kind of thing. Yes, they're incorporating jiu-jitsu. Yes, they're incorporating wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, etc. But it's also become more of like a style, right? Because you have to be able to do all those things. And there are actual MMA gyms. And so I include it on this list because I consider MMA a martial art. The problem is, it's for brutish, violent, mean, jockish assholes who want to punch and kick people in the face and try to choke them as a sport. And I just don't think that bad guys are going to win like that, are going to win fights against good guys like these people in the top tier who can use their chi, use their brain to redirect the opponent's energy so that you don't actually have to learn to fight them. You can just pretend that you're gonna do stuff that's going to diffuse them because you think violence is bad within the realm of martial arts, which is the art of warfare. So I hope that clears things up. So I'm gonna put MMA at F because bad guys, aggro, mean, super muscular, roided out dudes trying to beat each other up can never defeat good. This is good, the good up here. The good guys. Go ahead and try it. Try to use your MMA brawl and brawn against someone that knows Aikido or that knows Tai Chi. For real. I challenge you. You're in for a rude awakening when you get hit with that energy. Let me just tell you right now, bucko. Any of you MMA fighters thinking you're gonna just shut down a ninjitsu guy because there aren't any ninjitsu guys training MMA? Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but ninjitsu, the root word of ninjitsu is ninja. And Tai Chi is basically a form of magic that you can use to kinetically manipulate your opponent. So I don't know why you think your muscles are going to work against that. And Aikido is specifically for taking the bad guy energy and redirecting it. And if you never fought an Aikido master, you don't know what I'm talking about. And everybody chiming in the comments, they don't know how to fight. I'm telling you right now, you do not know how to fight if you think that Aikido and Tai Chi are not good for fighting. Because you've never actually faced it. You've never faced a real Chi master. You've never faced a real Aikido guru that can just grab your wrist and take you wherever they want to take you. So let that be a lesson to you. Thanks for watching.
Back out fresh on the scene. Back out fresh on the scene.
Back out fresh on the scene.